For you guys who don't know me, I'm Tom, and I recently completed PhD in biological sciences, and I love statistics. I love comparing, observing, make conclusions out of data, etc. And that's probably one of the drive for creating a series which we named The Time is at Hand. Are we ready? So, oops, went too quick. So trademark verse for this series is found in Mark 13:33, which says, "Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is." However, there are many more verses which were driving force behind creating this series, and I would like to mention Matthew 28:20, which says, "Teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you." Reading through Gospels, especially through Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we find 19 times Jesus commanding, because he's using terms for watching is in the form of imperative, so it's command. So it's something that resonates with 28:20 19 times, and additional 3 times he said watch in the Revelation. We can conclude from there that that was very important for Jesus, for his followers, to understand and watch for the signs that he is giving them. Also, we can see in the Old Testament how important it is to watch, and especially if we get to Ezekiel 33, 1-6. So if you haven't read Ezekiel 33, I urge you to do that, because it's super important. And what is the watchman's story? Watchman's story is very simple in a nutshell. The person is a watchman standing on the watchtower and is watching for the incoming destruction. And when destruction is coming, he has to sound the trumpet. And if he does that, the people around who hear that has a choice to react on it or not. If they don't react, the destruction that come may kill them, and their blood gonna be on their heads. However, if the watchman doesn't sound the trumpet and destruction comes and many people are dead because of that, their blood is gonna be on the watchman's head. And the Bible is teaching us, and Jesus is teaching us, that we are watchmen. Birth pain. We all know that main characteristics or features of birth pain, especially there are many moms here, they know that this is contractions pain that are happening in a pattern of increased intensity and increased frequency. Closer it comes to delivery of the baby. And birth pain's been introduced in Garden of Eden after the fall of Adam and Eve. God is proclaiming a curse over Eve, saying in Genesis 3:16, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children." Jesus is using the principles of the birth pain after he listed the calamities that are coming towards the end of this age, as he's mentioning wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, famine, earthquakes. After that, he's saying in Matthew 24:8, all these are beginning of sorrows or beginning of birth pain. There is another very important verse that connects or links birth pain traits with the end time events, and we can find it in Thessalonians 5:3. "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." Amongst other signs that Jesus said we have to be watchful for are earthquakes. We know that God's hand put on this earth earthquake for many, many reasons. We know that a part of the Noah's flood were massive earthquakes. And one of the most important and most famous earthquake is the one that occurred at the time when Jesus died on the cross. So there is no doubt that earthquake is going to be playing the role as a sign for us to notice a close coming of Jesus Christ. So we here in Christchurch, we are all familiar with earthquakes, and this little room is actually my room after 22nd February 2011 earthquake that sadly took 185 people out of our community here in Christchurch. So Jesus is mentioning earthquakes very clearly in Matthew 24:7, Mark 13:8, and Luke 21:11. And he's saying that's going to be in diverse places, likely thinking of happenings all around the world. But there is a question. Can we actually link the analogy or principles of birth pains with the occurrence of earthquakes all around the world? For that purpose, I've done a little bit of research on my own. I haven't seen anyone anywhere done that. I'm not saying that it hasn't been done. However, I found this very interesting website, earthquake.usg.gov, and it's concerned to be one of the greatest and the best earthquake directory in the world, and it has earthquakes from entire history of the mankind recorded there. And for this little exercise, I used only earthquakes 7.5 on a Richter scale and above. Because if I took all the earthquakes that I wanted, that would be one big black dot here, because there are so many. So we can see on the horizontal line, we can see time scale from 1750 and to this very day. And on the y-axis, we have magnitude or Richter scales of the strength of the earthquake. Please note what's happening under this dashed line, because my question was, is there any pattern in terms of increase in density or pattern increase in frequency? And as you can see, that there is a tendency that the magnitude is growing with time from nearly 300 years back till now. So there is a pattern being formed in front of our eyes. However, there is much stronger pattern in terms of frequency, because we can see as time goes that the occurrence of dots, which are actually earthquakes, are getting much denser towards our time. So don't get fooled with the fact that I have evidence of earthquake here from nearly 300 years ago. I chosen on purpose big earthquakes which are carefully recorded. All of those earthquakes here were devastating and many thousand people died. So there is no chance that earthquake of 7.5 would not be recorded in the history for the last 300 or even more years ago. So there are no more of these big earthquakes than what is presented on this graph. You can actually do your research and check me out if you will. So this pattern of increasing density can be portrayed in a much better way to show you strength of this increase if we use a different method of statistical analysis, which is called frequency distribution graph. So it's a very simple thing. I just put all the big earthquakes that we've seen in the previous graph in the per decades. And we can see what's happening. Oops. Not very used to this. So, okay. Here we are. So the blue bars are actual data. And I ran the model that would best explain the trajectory or appearance of these data. And a curve has been produced which is a certain type of growth. And we have kids here and we have some youth here, and I expect that someone might tell me, what is the growth common for bacteria? Does anyone know how bacteria grow? It's called exponential growth. So we can see here that in the terms of frequency, earthquakes are growing exponentially. And here is one number which is telling, for any statistician or science student, telling a lot. If that number is close to 1, that means that my line is perfectly explaining the data. In a natural world, as well as in economics and sciences and social sciences as well, when you have your data gathered, very, very rarely you would have number greater than 0.6, 0.7. We are talking here nearly 0.9. So this is irrefutable evidence that earthquake occurrence is going in the fashion of exponential growth. And for that purpose, we can conclude that what Jesus mentioned, that the birth pain characteristic of the last day events are very, very evident. However, this small presentation was just a mild warning for you. For that purposes, I have created something else, which is the next installment of this presentation, which is telling us something a little bit more in the details, that we can see that actually we are probably a little bit further away than just at the beginning of the birth pain mentioned by Jesus in Matthew 24. So next time I will be talking about socioeconomic and political events and how we can see them from the lens of Bible prophecies. And some of you guys experience all of those events that I'm going to talk about, but you never actually linked it with the end-time events. So please stay tuned, and you are up for a good time with this little series. So thank you very much, and God bless.